Hello, you're listening to Truth in Motion, Episode 5. And today we're talking about patterns. The kind you don't always notice at first. But once you see them, you can't unsee them. Patterns show up everywhere. In how you start your day, in how you respond when something goes wrong, in the kinds of relationships you find yourself in how you handle stress or silence or change. And the interesting part is, most of these patterns are not chosen. They're learned, and not in a curious way, in a lived way, through repetition, experience, through what your body has come to recognize as familiar. And here's where it connects to everything we've been talking about. Your attention follows patterns. Your nervous system settles into patterns. Your capacity grows inside patterns. So patterns are like invisible pathways. The more you walk them, the easier they become to follow. And sometimes those pathways are supportive. They help you stay steady. They help you create, connect. But sometimes they lead you back to the same place over and over again. Some reaction, you start to feel the same tension, same kind of dynamic. And you find yourself thinking, why does this keep happening? And that is the moment where something starts to shift. It's not when you try to fix it, but when you start to see it. Because once you see a pattern, you have a little bit of space, and that space matters. Patterns often begin early. In childhood, in how we were spoken to, in what was expected of us, in how conflict was handled, in how love showed up or how it didn't show up. And your system learned this is how things go. And it held on to that. Not because it was right, because it is something that is known. So later in life, when something feels familiar, even if it's not ideal, the body will recognize it and will say, oh, I know this. I can handle this. Even if handling it means tension or shutting down or overreacting or overgiving or pulling away. And that's the pattern. And here's the important part. Patterns are not something to blame yourself for. They're something to become aware of, because awareness changes how you relate to them. Let's take something simple. You notice that every time you feel overwhelmed, you reach for distraction. Phone, food, noise, anything to shift all that away. And that is not random. That is a pattern your system learned to regulate itself. And it makes sense, of course it does. But once you see it, you have another option. You don't have to remove the pattern immediately, but you can pause, you can notice, you can take a breath, and maybe choose something slightly different. And that's how patterns begin to change. Not by force, but by interruption. By bringing attention into something that used to run automatically. And this is also where creativity comes back in. Because creativity will break patterns. When you move your body in a new way, something shifts. When you make something, even something small, you step outside of repetition. When you change your environment, your rhythm changes. And suddenly, there it is. There is space. Space for a new response. Space for a different feeling. for something unfamiliar to enter. And at first, the unfamiliar can feel uncomfortable. We've mentioned that in previous episodes. But also, this is where growth lives. Not in doing something completely different overnight, but in gently stepping off the usual path. Trying something slightly new, responding a little differently, staying a moment longer. Because patterns don't disappear all at once. They soften, they loosen, they become less automatic. And over time, something new takes their place. And yes, there's something a little funny about all of this too. Because once you start seeing patterns, you're going to start seeing them everywhere. In yourself, in other people, in conversations, in habits. You'll catch yourself mid-reaction and think, oh, there it is. And that moment, that is awareness. That's where change becomes possible. So maybe this coming week, instead of trying to fix everything, just notice. What keeps repeating? Where do your reactions feel familiar? What do you do without even thinking about it? And can you pause there? Just long enough to choose something slightly different. That's how patterns shift. That's how life begins to move in a new direction. And that is truth in motion. I'll talk to you next Friday.